Well, Wasted Bacon's got him, man.
Have you finished it?
I finished it, but taxes
Taxes.
that were then delayed till November 3rd.
I know. How about that?
I don't know what that means.
That's some great news. I think everyone needs to know about that.
Yes, that's true.
Hello, friends, and welcome to yet another edition of All the Best Words. My name is Matt Murphy, and I say all the best words.
My name's Cameron Smith, and I write all the best words.
And together, this is All the Best Words.
I know words. I have the best words.
This is All the Best Words with Matt Murphy and Cameron Smith.
So the idea is that so much of the state was impacted by storms
Yes.
that we now get a break on paying our taxes.
Till November 3rd.
Yeah, did that seem weird?
It did. It's almost like, well, we'll have to get to all the best words before I can tell you about it.
Well, very well. You know the drill, folks. I have a word. Cameron has a word. He doesn't know what my word is. I don't know what his word is. And we discuss all the best words. We thank you for liking and subscribing, giving us the old thumbs up or whatever you do. And we appreciate you being along for the ride.
Yes, thumbs up, not middle fingers.
You can give us just punch the button. I don't care what you put over there. You can give us the middle finger if you want. So Cameron, I normally try to go first, so I'm going to give you the honor.
Sure.
I'll let you go ahead.
So this one for me is pretty straightforward. It's facilitate. That is a very exciting word. We will facilitate, in this context, Mr. Abrego Garcia's return from El Salvador to the United States so that he can have his due process. Mm-hmm. The district court judge said she was very clear, and now upon remand back from the Supreme Court has said she has not facilitated or effectuated, but rather directed the Trump administration to bring back Mr. Abrego Garcia to have a hearing, which the Trump administration has said is pointless because he will ultimately be deported anyway. So they are saying they can't reach into El Salvador and bring him back, and it's a mess right now. It's very exciting.
So it's interesting in as much as my word has a lot to do with this subject, but I'll hold off on that. And I'll talk about the Supreme Court and how they, I think very intentionally, reminded the judge that what we need to try to do is facilitate a return, and I'll peel back the curtain, folks. My word is effectuate. So
Right.
This is interesting because, originally, the judge had said you have to effectuate a return. That
Right.
means that you have to force a return.
Right.
That there must be a return.
Sure.
And the Supreme Court pulled back on that language and said, no, we do think that there needs to be some better processes here. So you need to facilitate that return, which is it seems like a nothing burger, but it is a something burger because one means you must make something happen. And the other means try to make it easier for it to happen. And I think the Supreme Court is recognizing, rightly so, that there are foreign policy matters that have to be figured out amongst the executive branch. And, not to the specifics of this situation, but in general, that's the executive branch's prerogative to figure out these foreign policy matters. Plus, we don't get to tell other countries what to do. And
Tell me more about that.
Well, look, El Salvador does what El Salvador wants.
Those wild El Salvadorians,
right,
I think, down there.
They're kind of acting independent of the United States of America.
It's
it's not like Donald Trump could negotiate a deal with El Salvador to get this guy back.
Well, so maybe that should have been my word, is bad faith. That whether it's facilitate or effectuate, the Trump administration is neither making it easier nor actually trying to get this guy back for a hearing because they're acting like they would have to go and kidnap Mr. Abrego Garcia, and they have an arrangement with El Salvador to hold these detainees. And so if President Trump said, could you please send him back? They almost certainly would. The idea that this is going to require military intervention or some sort of heavy-handedness
high-level treaty talk.
It's just kind of silly, and yet that seems to be the administration's position here, which I don't get it.
I don't believe that the administration has any interest in prioritizing Garcia's return to begin with. And just a few facts of the case that I know you know, but maybe folks watching and listening don't. Garcia entered the country illegally in 2011.
Yes.
He did not enter the country under an asylum claim. He came illegally. He is an illegal alien in the United States of America. It was in 2019, while he was being ordered to be deported, that he made a claim of asylum. His claim was based on him saying that he was a part of a gang in El Salvador, MS-13, and that his claim was that if he was returned to El Salvador, that Barrio 18, a rival gang, would
hurt him,
would extract retribution on him. So the Trump administration is utilizing the very claim that he made in court in 2019. That it's very ironic. The claim that he made that met the criteria of asylum is the very thing that the Trump administration is now using to say we don't have to utilize due process to deport him because he is admittedly a part of what is now designated as a terrorist organization.
And to be fair, he has since said, I am not a part of MS-13.
He has.
I am not. So the reason that this matters, and this is useful for the listening audience, is that if he says, if it is determined that he's an MS-13 gang member, then his protection order requiring him not to be deported to El Salvador does not function. If he's determined not to be a member of MS-13, that order is still in effect.
So one way or the other, he's probably not going to be back in the United States of America for very long, if at all.
Correct.
Which I think will lead us directly to my word, which, as I said during your time, was effectuate. And it's the same thing, right? So does the Trump administration have a requirement to effectuate a transfer? And I think the Supreme Court is recognizing that there's a delicate balance of powers going on here.
Sure.
And, it reminds you don't want to get into these types of constitutional situations, particularly over something as relatively small as this.
Yes.
Because and here's the thing. The media's hanging on this. The media wants to focus on this singular event, and they want to pretend like this is an example of what the Trump administration has been very effective in eliminating criminal illegal aliens from the United States of America. And so part of me wonders, well, why don't you just go find him, bring him back, and put him back on a plane and be done with it? But the Trump administration is digging their heels in and saying, you know what, very much like Andrew Jackson said back in the day, sure, the Supreme Court has made their order, now let's see them enforce it. The Trump administration says, yeah, we're doing the best we can. But executive branches have done this all the time. I pointed out on my radio show, the Biden administration did this very same thing for 4 years about all the illegal aliens, right? For 4 years, the Biden administration said, we're trying our best. We're doing everything we can. You talk about bad faith, right? Well, man, we're working hard. We're working overtime. We're working on weekends. We brought in lunch. We're trying to get this border under control. We just can't do it, right? And everybody knew that was kind of garbage. And so the Trump administration is doing that with this singular event.
The difference here, and I think it's importantly different, is the order of a judge, because the district judge has now said, hey, you will bring him back. She has directed them to do this on remand for the Supreme Court. Now the administration can appeal that again and say, you've overstepped your bounds. You have prescribed. She hasn't said you must go and pick him up at the plane, bring him back here. I don't know why we don't just do a Zoom. You can have a hearing remotely. There are a lot of options here that we should consider.
That's a good idea.
That address the problem, because I agree with you that the Trump administration, in digging their heels in on this one case, is giving the media a lot to attack, to say, see all our concerns about democracy in crisis, a constitutional crisis. These are well-founded. Well, no, they're not. But when there's an order that is a lawful order from the judiciary saying, hey, you need to do a thing, it's really important that we preserve that, especially when it's hey, should I be detained or not?
Well, two things there. One is the courts and the law, and that's obviously very important, and I would agree with that. But the other on the media piece is I don't necessarily think the Trump administration minds the mainstream media harping on this in the way that they have for the last, however long it's been. You know what they're not harping on while they're harping on this? They're not harping on the rest of the activity going on regarding illegal criminal aliens. They're not harping on DOJ anymore.
Sure.
They're so. I mean, perhaps the Trump administration, and I don't know, I don't want to give them, that 40 chess model without it being that, but maybe they don't mind it.
Well, so I went out on a limb and defended the administration in terms of their immigration enforcement because the executive branch has to be able to act. They have to be able to make decisions, make choices consistent with the law and the Constitution. And when the process happens, they get sued, and then there's a court hearing, and then we go through this whole thing. This is an instance where the outcome's probably very similar regardless. But if you go through the process, you take away the argument that you're ignoring the rule of law. And in this instance, I think there's at least enough of a case in controversy that says, okay, give this guy the ability to make the case that this is an unlawful transfer, that he could not be deported to El Salvador, and then bring him back and then deport him to Mexico. I mean, there are options that the administration can take that are relatively simple.
Or deport him back to El Salvador, where the gang activity that he claimed in 2019 was preventing him from going back no longer exists because El Salvador has cleaned up all of their business.
And in a hearing, you can do that and say, look, you said you were concerned because you were a member of a rival gang. Which is it? Either you were concerned and we can't deport you here, so we're going to deport you over there, or this was inaccurate and we're deporting you there. You choose.
So I think the misstep from a media perspective in all of this is to try to make this an emotional human moment. And I don't think, and I don't pretend to speak for the American people, but I speak for Matt Murphy when I say I don't care that much. And you can't make me care that much about this individual. They're trying to make it about Garcia and his family, and they're trying to make it a very human experience.
Right.
I care about the rule of law, and I don't want to see people needlessly hurt. But at the same time, I do not care about an individual that came in illegally in 2011 and has at long last been found to be here illegally and is going to be deported back to his home country. I don't care to the level that the mainstream media wants me to.
Well, I would like to facilitate an effectuation of your emotional response, but alas, we're out of time.
That is all the best words for this time. Join us next time. Remember to like, subscribe, give us the old thumbs up. We'll see you next time.